The 20th and the 21st centuries have many different literary, artistic, musical schools. It's hard to characterize this century and 2 decades with one single name. Some would say the avant-gardes, or modernism in English. But there is also postmodernism, and there is also other trends that still exist in the 20th century that are really hard to really summarize in one single idea. That's why it's better to talk about the temporal lapse. And definitely one of the most significant events at the beginning of the 20th century, once realism has prevailed in the second half of the 19th century, is a reaction against realism called the avant-garde or modernism, which is an extension of Romanticism according to Octavio Paz, the Mexican poet. What happened in the early 20th century that made poets, painters, playwrights, sculptors, musicians look for forms that were unconventional, challenging, that wouldn't really agree with the dominant trend of describing reality as it is? Well, several things. We're going to talk about that and some of the most important schools of art in the 20th century, like Impressionism, Post-Impressionism, Futurism, Cubism, Imagism. These names probably ring a bell to you, probably not as much as Surrealism, which is probably the most important school of avant-garde, founded by André Breton and other French poets in 1924. But we will also talk about fiction in the 20th century. There's a lot of writers. We won't be able to cover all of them, but probably the most important ones. Poetry and theater, no doubt. In addition to narrative forms, poetry, theater had an important development, more or less related to the development of other arts, in the sense in which the irrational, the unconsciousness, the arbitrary, the absurd were the subject of exploration, same as in modern music, and of course, film, the seventh art, as it's called. Film is probably the art that summarizes and at the same time includes all other forms of art: photography, painting, poetry, theater. It's one of the most important and wonderful contributions of the late 19th century and overall the early 20th century. So film forms part of our class today on the 20th and 21st centuries.